Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of EOXS's Stories on Steel. This is a steel industry podcast featuring the big names of the business and the advice/stories they've accrued over their years as insiders. Steel has been a vital component in American life for well over a century, and the men and women who've helped it flourish are a diverse group of innovators full of interesting tales. We hope to share some of said tales here with you today. Thanks again to EOXS for providing this platform. In addition to this show, they are bringing businesses online by providing a standard digitalized workspace for all your steel-related needs. And today we are happy to welcome a sales manager for Coilplus, Mr. Mark Eck. Mark, thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm well, Kevin. I'm well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, I know we're here to talk about steel, but whenever someone's from a certain region, I always like to get a little off topic to start. You're from Oklahoma. You've lived in Texas. How many years?
About 8 years, 8 or 9 years now.
Oh, 8 or 9 years. So you obviously have deep ties to the community, like a lot of love for Texas, I would hope.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, how does it feel being from a state that loves football so much, but just doesn't have any good football teams? I want to know how that feels.
That's tough, man. There's no professional football teams in Oklahoma, but
I know, but
there's a couple of great college schools there. My brothers went to the one everybody roots for in OU.
Ooh, wow.
So I defected, but I love college football though.
I mean, that's kind of where you got to live, just because I'm from the Northeast, like I'm from New England. So we like take your pick. If it's basketball, yeah, we got the Celtics, baseball, oh, Yankees, Red Sox, you name it. Football, oh my gosh, get out of here, New England Patriots. And I just, whenever we're talking to other people, I always like to let them know I'm sorry that we have all the winning, right up there, and everyone else wants it, and we don't let them have it.
Yeah, we finally got professional basketball in Oklahoma, but I took off before that really came around. So I moved down to Dallas. I got to be down on the Dallas Cowboys, and of course they have the Mavericks, hockey, and everything else. So I get to experience it now, but not when I was growing up.
Yeah, I miss Dirk. He hasn't even been gone that long, but I already miss him. And that is, that is as much off-topic conversations as my bosses will allow me on one of these episodes.
We could roll for a while.
Yeah, no, we could go, I could tell. But we always love to get some more insights into everybody's steel story. By hook or by crook, everybody on this show found their way into the steel business at some point in their lives. What led you there?
Man, so my role in this steel business has always been in sales. And going back to high school, that's the kind of first time I got into sales. Took a job in telemarketing, and I just did really well with it. Did pretty good, and when I finally went off to college, that's kind of what I gravitated to as well as I put myself through college. And outside of telemarketing in college, I did some door-to-door sales. And then I ended up in a retail store. Do you remember Singular Wireless?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, back selling Razor phones back in the day.
Oh, man. Those Motorola flips, though.
Yeah. So I did that and finished up school, ended up sticking in sales, but I went to into insurance, selling property and casualty and some commercial policies as well. And it got kind of monotonous. I did it for about 3 years. And out of the blue, a buddy of mine from college that I was a close friend of mine reaches out and says, man, you want to come up to Tulsa, Oklahoma and sell steel? I was like, sure. Yeah, let's do it. But I was also thinking like, so people really do that. I didn't think there's people that sold steel. I mean, it's all around you. It's everywhere. But it's just not something you really think about. But yeah, I moved to Tulsa and ended up doing inside sales for a couple of years, working for a company doing flat roll, and did well enough that they gave me an opportunity to go into outside sales. And that's about the time I moved down to Dallas, Fort Worth. I covered North Texas, Louisiana, parts of Mexico as well, along the border towns, and did that for 6 or 7 years. but more recently, Coilplus gave me an opportunity to manage a team. So I'm down here in San Antonio, working with the Texas division. Still flat roll, but enjoying it.
So that first call that you got that sort of served as your entryway into the business. How old were you at that point?
I would shoot probably 26, 27, somewhere around there.
All right. So what's that 26-year-old? Just because I'm 24, I'm right about there, and I felt kind of similarly when this opportunity. I have no connection to steel personally,
Mm,
but I love talking into a microphone, and there's a job posting. Hey, can you talk about steel for 30 minutes at a clip? And I'm like, I'll try.
sure.
What what was it like to make that leap into a new field?
I mean, whether I realized it or not, I guess I was ready to do something else. I knew at that point, just with the various sales jobs I had, um, the insurance part was fun for a while because it kind of combined two jobs I did before. You can't sit in an office in insurance expect foot traffic to come rolling in, so you had to get on the phone and smile and dial and set up appointments. And then once people came in, it's kind of like the retail type of job where you're just in an office environment and working to close deals with people. It was fun in the beginning, but like I said, it was a little bit monotonous with auto insurance. It's what kind of coverages do you want, and they're always about the same. So when my friend offered me the opportunity, I just felt like it was about time for a change, and I just took a leap of faith into it, and it was good. It was good. I really enjoyed the challenges that come with being on the desk and inside sales, and it's kind of throws you to the wolves. It's you got to learn quickly the business from that role.
Yeah, I definitely. We've had people on in sales before, on for episodes, and they've talked about how it feels to know like the thing you're selling is going to be going to building spaceships and nuclear submarines, and like it's the one of the best materials we have access to, so it's going to go in basically everything. Um, but it sounds like you made very kinetic decisions at that age, like I got a good feeling about this. So once you made that decision, what was it like getting brought up to speed with what you were selling?
It's kind of funny because as I was saying it, I hadn't really thought about that time in my career for a while. Um, you know, in inside sales, the company I worked for at the time was Max Steel, and the way they set us up is it's not like you handled a certain area or a certain type of account. I worked with accounts that did stainless, some that did galvanized, some that were doing P&O. And so I got a good exposure to a lot of different products, and the end users were building a lot of different things themselves. So I thought in a 2-year span, man, I've learned a lot. I know a lot about this business. And when the outside sales role came up as an opportunity, I almost didn't take it. I was enjoying the inside sales part of it so much that I almost didn't put my name in the hat. But I remember when I first went out on the road, the guy who thought he knew quite a bit about the business realized I don't know anything. So you get out in the field, and that's when you really start to experience what this industry has in store. I knew about galvanized and hot roll and stainless and aluminum, but I'd really never seen it or seen the application of it. And the cool thing about it, compared to the monotony of moving property and casualty policies, is every day is different. Every product is different, and things our customers make. You were saying you see it everywhere around you. The cool thing for me is I have a 6-year-old son, and he's kind of picked up on some things I've said. You go into a Subway and they're making a sandwich. That prep station, it's like, hey, that's my steel. Uh, you know, just about anywhere you go, you put a seatbelt on, and there's a chance that our steel's in that seatbelt.
I
So
just I just imagine your little guy's first geography class, and they're going over different materials, and the teacher says, who could tell me where steel comes from? And he's just like, I got this. My dad finds it. He
Oh,
just
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't know. You got to ask my dad. Can I call him?
I'll bring him here. He'll talk about it.
Yeah, he'll bring all of it. But
Absolutely.
you talked a lot about the
He's
monotony.
excited about it. And
Oh yeah?
yeah, he's excited about it because he sees how excited about it I am. There's just never a dull day. And, you come in the morning and before you know it, it's 5 o'clock and just day flashes by, especially right now with the way the market is.
That was going to be something we talked about a little bit later, but we are currently experiencing a massive global need for steel in almost every capacity. Different businesses are rushing to meet the demand. How has that been as someone in charge of sales for a sales team?
Well, I've been in this industry for about 12 or 13 years now, and there's certainly a lot I've gone through and experienced over the years, and you kind of remember those lessons you've learned from past experiences. And what's really unique about right now is the things that are going on. You don't really have that history that you can draw on and say, well, based on this, I remember back in 06 or 07, this happened. Use that as a way to anticipate like what's coming up. It's just a wild time that people are working remotely. So they're working remotely and they're not taking vacations. So you're sitting around the house saying, we need a better AC. Let's get a new HVAC unit. Or let's go get a new refrigerator or washer dryer. And, around August, all of a sudden we start getting people returning to work and they're sending us their forecasts. And I'm thinking, are they serious? They've never taken this much metal, but that's what they're saying. And you see the appliance OEMs have blown up, HVAC OEMs have blown up. Certainly the automakers are very busy. And then now we're getting into territory where steel's disruptive, but the semiconductor thing is kind of tampering it. So is the polyethylene deal from the storms. It shut down the oil refineries, so that for a period of time shut down their ability to make polyethylene, and that goes into the seat backs of vehicles. So in some ways, I'm kind of like, man, I hope they are short for a while because then they at least will chill out for a little bit. But it's you've gone through waves at times where demand is up, and it's tough to stay out in front of it. But it just seems like it's been going on for several months, and it definitely has challenges for someone who's only been managing a team for a couple of years. Not the ideal way I was expecting to cut my teeth and managing a sales team, but the challenge is helping me to learn quite a bit.
I mean, I don't think you could be in this business another 50 years, and I don't think you'd find a better blast furnace to temper you for any kind of problem that comes your way. I feel like we'd need to eat another asteroid, like a meteor the size of Texas, before we have to deal with any kind of crazy things like this. Like, my God. Let's go back a little bit to what you were talking about earlier. We're going to get back to the current state of affairs, but before we move on too much, we talked a little bit about the traveling you've had to do or you've gotten to do since joining the steel industry. I think you mentioned mainly Mexico. Any other places you've had to visit, or that's typically where you've got to go out of the country?
Yeah. Kind of the interesting thing is when I first started as a territory manager, I was primarily in North Texas. And that was a whole lot of driving. If I was doing overnight somewhere, it's usually because I was in East Texas or, couldn't go back home same day. But about midway through my time as a territory manager, I started to go into Juarez, Mexico, and El Paso. And you go into local facilities down there, you're dealing with your day-to-day people that require steel each and every day. But then when it comes time to, negotiate a new quarterly price or a new annual program, the decision makers generally are not in Juarez, Mexico. So that's when my travel really started to open up to get to see a lot of this country. maybe decision makers are in North Carolina or Michigan or Chicago. So what used to be a lot of driving turned into a lot of airline travel, and that part of it I really much enjoyed. Just getting to see different parts of the country, and Oklahoma is not much different than Texas, other than the weather maybe a little bit, but the personalities and the culture is pretty similar. So
better college ball too. You know, you
hopefully,
gotta.
hopefully.
Fingers
But yeah,
crossed.
that's been the great part is I just like being out and around people, and uh, this job's given me that opportunity, and getting to travel around here and there is always fun.
You did mention like Juarez in particular. I know that is a notoriously rough area for some people. What was your experience like?
Uh, so I did go down as an inside rep early on in my career, and I remember, this is 12, 13 years ago. It seemed pretty crazy to be going into Juarez. I was pretty nervous at that point. And then, you fast forward 4 or 5 years, and I'm a territory manager, and I'm not the one who's being dragged along to go down there. I'm the one who's just going in. And it was nerve-wracking from that standpoint, because I'm just kind of responsible for myself. But it actually had become a pretty nice area. And I got pretty comfortable with going back and forth across the border. And there's a lot of great people down there. I never have learned to speak Spanish. I probably should. But being it's one of the border towns of Mexico, there's quite a few English speaking people all throughout Juarez. So it's been a fun experience. I haven't, for the past year, been able to get out and travel. I'm rather much looking forward to getting back out on the road. Being stuck in an office is kind of not my thing.
It seems like that was one of the initial allures of the steel industry for you, is that even in a sales position, you're still on the ground. It's a very hands-on business, and people expect you to go around and like talk to
Oh,
people face to
absolutely.
face.
Absolutely.
Do you
Yeah.
think that I was just going to say, do you think that that's still a major aspect of the steel industry in particular?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I think we're learning some different things over this past year, and I know you're going to get into those questions as they relate to EOXS. But uh, one of the major challenging things right now is just because there are still shortages and different challenges in supply chain. For me and my team in sales, we're not just going to sit and wait for things to get normal again. We still need to go sell, and most of what we do is contractual business. So I'm not supplying one or two items over the course of a quarter. We're trying to go after contractual business that has, pretty sizable bill of materials. And one of the tough things right now is we're onboarding some customers. Normally you would go in and you would see the facility and you'd see where they receive in their metal and where they store it and what kind of machines it goes into. And those are things where, you can see it, touch and feel it, and get to know the people that are working around your steel as it comes in. It kind of helps you better understand how to support their overall supply chain. Um, just getting sheets of paper that have specifications on them, it tells you a lot of what you need to know, but it doesn't give you everything. Being able to get on site is a big deal, and not having that ability right now is definitely a challenge.
Well, I think that is a good place to pivot to the changes that everybody's had to make. And a common thread I've seen is an increased investment in different online platforms and different like digital tools. Could you speak to any of the changes you've had to make on that front?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm big on networking. I like getting to know people. There's a lot of people that in this business you go get in front of as a salesperson that you kind of learn pretty quickly that they're not the right prospect or target for you. But it's still good to get in front of them because there's information you can gain from knowing people. Um, so the hard part when you're either stuck working remotely at home or like me, I've tried to keep coming to the plant here in San Antonio, is now I can't get out and network with people. So for me personally, one thing I've done is I've never really used LinkedIn a whole lot. over the past probably 6 or 8 months, especially, I've kind of used that as my way to continue networking with people. And it's been pretty surprising how many contacts I've gained through that, and emails and phone calls it's led to, and actually real opportunities for us to sell. I thought I knew where, most of the major accounts were in Texas, especially up in North Texas, since that's where I kind of grew up in this industry. But it's surprising to find there's a lot of, great businesses out there, and good companies doing good things that you just didn't know about. And I found them by just sitting on a desk here in the office. And it's a different way of doing it, but it's I think it's an important way of kind of doing the same thing as being out on the road, but just doing it online.
I think that everybody in every facet of life is waiting for the day to day to return closer to normal, closer to what
Sure.
it was before, the pandemic and quarantine. But I do think there is this sense that things are changed permanently. Do you feel that there are aspects of the steel industry that are just different now?
Yeah, no doubt. One of the tough things is as there's been major disruption in our supply chains, your normal way of relying on material to become available and show up at your doorstep so you can get it supplied to your customer, that's disrupted. So I've found myself engaging more with other service centers. It's kind of funny because we went through a chunk of time where you're just like, oh, don't sell to another service center, you're helping them out. But I kind of realized it as a kind of a bartering opportunity. There's lots of stuff I'm looking for, and if somebody calls me up, instead of throwing them a stupid number because we can right now, I'm thinking, well, I'm looking for this, I might have what you need. So I've kind of built some connections that way as well. And in some cases, started to use a lot of the online platforms like EOXS out there to locate material.
Well, it's
giving you that nice little segue.
I didn't, just full disclosure, I didn't ask for that, or we didn't ask for that, but thank you. That's it's always good to hear that the digital space is being better utilized and that certain companies are in a position to help more. But I do think that's interesting because the steel industry is very much a business, and there have been cutthroat figures and hostile takeovers throughout its history, in at least America and everywhere. Who am I kidding? People love taking over things, but it does seem like there is more respect and professional courtesy here and there. And as someone who's been in different sales ventures, would you be able to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's funny when you're especially out as an outside sales rep. You go into a place. Sometimes they have a secretary, but a lot of times they have the sign-in book, and all of us scan through and who else has been in here, and you kind of think of it from a competitive standpoint, and man, they don't need to be in here calling on my account. So yeah, it's I don't know if it's really hostile, but it's not friendly at times. I've kind of been the opposite of that throughout my career. There's a lot of events we go to, like MetalCon or some of the SMU stuff that goes on, or ASHRAE, and I like meeting and getting to know the people that I compete with. Maybe I'm odd, but I've met other people that feel the same way. But over the last several months, it's gotten interesting because there's competitors that are definitely my direct competitor, but we sold each other steel over the last few months. That's probably not something that would have happened prior to February or March of last year. So there's definitely a greater level of respect because it's not an easy job. Especially as an outside salesperson or anyone in sales, you're out knocking on doors and hearing no a lot, and get some business. It's a big deal. And right now, what's tough about it is you've gained the customer's trust to support them and what they're doing, and it's very difficult to do. So you got to take some measures that are different than they used to be at times.
I mean, I can't imagine how rough it would be having to go door to door with just ingots of steel or, big flat rolled sheets. I feel like it's definitely easier to do that over a digital space for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's the great thing about right now is there's people that I've tried to call on over the years that I've just never gotten through, and it's kind of funny because you've been in there, you've knocked on a door, you left a card. There's some I probably never even talked to, and when they start running out of metal, they call you up and they're like, "Mark, I haven't talked to you in a while, man. How you doing?" It's like we're old friends. It's like you never once took my call, so it's an interesting time. It's probably the easiest time right now for a salesperson to build connections to end users, and we're definitely using it as a way to build out our pipeline for when things do start to normalize within supply chains.
Everybody in sales that we've had on does have there's no one secret to the sales game, especially with something as ubiquitous as steel. But I think everybody does have their own spin on what it takes to build rapport with someone and form that very quick connection that's necessary in order to make a sale. How have you developed yours?
Yeah, rapport is key. I think for a buyer, I mean, we're not going in and selling just a small, like a cell phone where you may spend $100, a couple $100. I mean, we're dealing in contracts of thousands of dollars, in some cases, millions of dollars. So I think for a lot of buyers or category managers, the main thing they want to know is that they can trust you. And the way to get there is just to build that rapport early on. For me, it's something that's kind of come naturally for me. And I think I learned it from telemarketing is you're given a script where you got to talk verbatim the words that are on that script. So how can you change up your approach to sound different than anyone else who's calling and calling and calling? And it's just some things you pick up over the years from trial and error. I've failed a lot, certainly. But every time you fail, you don't lose the lesson, and you gain from it and get better. So yeah, building rapport comes easy for me, but that's not going to get the deal done either. It's getting to the point where, especially if you have a good company behind you, that branding behind you, if they feel they can trust you and the company you represent, then chances are you can do business together.
Well, I think that's solid advice for any kind of sales field. The idea that you need to invest in that person, at least a little bit. They're not just somebody that's going to take product off your hands. That doesn't just naturally happen. Yeah.
I mean, there's people I've known for years, and there's some that I don't even sell to anymore. But at times we've done business so long together that at this point, many of them are pretty much like friends. There's a lot I feel like are friends of mine, and that feeling's probably mutual. But it takes time. I remember one of the first times I got to go out on the road with one of the territory managers that I worked under. It's a lot of windshield time that you're out, so you're talking. And one of the first accounts that we went into, he was telling me as we went in that he had called on them for almost 5 years before he landed an order. So sometimes it's quick and you can build that rapport quickly and it turns into business, or sometimes you just got to stay the course for quite a while, and it's always different.
Well, sorry, I thought I was going to have a burp there. That would have been bad. Mark, thank you so much for giving us so much of your time today. We really appreciate it. And we really hope we can have you on again, because this was a really fun conversation. And next time, I'm sure I can convince my boss to let me speak about sports even more on this very business-oriented podcast.
Absolutely. I'd be down with that.
All right. Well, Mark, again, been great. And to everybody listening / watching, thank you for joining us. This has been another episode of EOXS Stories on Steel. Thanks again to Mark for stopping by. And remember, whether galvanized or hot rolled, EOXS will provide a marketplace to take any steel business to the online sector. Thank you and good night.